The autumn sun filtered through the ivy-covered walls of Thornhill University, casting long shadows across the cobblestone paths where ambition and privilege intersected. Aaliyah Monroe moved through the corridors of the engineering building with quiet confidence, her natural hair pulled back in a sleek bun, her eyes focused on the physics textbook balanced in one arm while she carried a coffee in the other. "Ms. Monroe," Professor Whitman called out as she passed his office. "Brilliant work on your quantum mechanics paper. Best in the class, and I've been teaching here 23 years. She paused, allowing herself a small smile. "Thank you, Professor. I'm just trying to earn my place here." "You've more than earned it." He leaned against his doorframe, his expression sincere. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." But they did tell her otherwise. Every day in 1,000 small ways. The whispers when she walked into study groups. The surprise when she outperformed her peers. The questions about affirmative action that somehow always found their way to her. Still, Aaliyah had learned early that excellence was both her armor and her weapon. Her parents, her father, a postal worker, and her mother, a nurse, had sacrificed everything for this opportunity. She wouldn't waste it on distractions, especially not on boys like Caleb Richardson. She'd first noticed him 3 weeks into the semester, holding court at the campus coffee shop, surrounded by admirers like a young politician at a fundraiser, which, given that his father was Senator James Richardson, wasn't far from the truth. Caleb had that effortless charm that came from a lifetime of doors opening before he even reached for the handle. "That's dangerous," her roommate Maya had warned, following Aaliyah's gaze. "Boys like that collect people like trophies." "Good thing I'm not interested," Aaliyah had replied, turning back to her differential equations. But Caleb had noticed her, and what Caleb wanted, Caleb pursued. It started with small things. A smile across the lecture hall, holding the library door open with that disarming grin, asking thoughtful questions about her research during shared classes. "You're different from everyone here," he told her one October afternoon, appearing beside her in the library stacks. "They're all playing a game. You're actually building something." Aaliyah kept her eyes on the shelf, but her guard was already beginning to crack. "We're all playing games. Some of us just have more to lose. Maybe that's why I find you fascinating." He pulled a book from the shelf she'd been reaching for, holding it just out of reach. "Coffee? Just coffee. No games." She should have said no. Every instinct her mother had ever taught her screamed no. But there was something in his eyes, vulnerability maybe, or a reflection of her own loneliness, that made her hesitate. "One coffee," she finally said. "And you're buying." His smile could have lit up the entire library. "I wouldn't have it any other way." "Hey, quick question before we continue this story. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your location in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. And please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, but only if you genuinely want to help us grow. Your support helps us tell more powerful stories like this one. Coffee became lunch. Lunch became walks across campus as leaves turned gold and crimson. Walks became late-night phone calls where Caleb confessed dreams his father disapproved of, architecture instead of politics, creating beauty instead of wielding power. "He's never seen me," Caleb said one night, his voice carrying a rawness that felt real. "He sees a legacy, a continuation of his name. But what if I want to be something else?" Aaliyah sat cross-legged on her dorm bed, phone pressed to her ear, her heart doing something terribly foolish, softening. "Then you build what you want, brick by brick. That's what I'm doing. That's why I need you," he whispered. "You make me believe I can be better." She helped him with his structural engineering coursework. He invited her to gallery openings, art films, restaurants she'd only read about in magazines. Her parents were cautious when she mentioned him during Sunday calls. "Baby, just be careful," her mother said, that knowing tone in her voice. "Some people see you as a conquest, not a partner." "Mama, not everyone is out to hurt me." "I know, sweetheart. I know." Pause, heavy with unspoken history. "Just keep your eyes open." But Aaliyah's eyes were already closing, blinded by the intoxicating attention of someone who seemed to see her, truly see her, beyond the scholarship girl, beyond the cautious overachiever, beyond all the labels she'd worn like armor. By December, she'd introduced Caleb to Maya, who remained skeptical. "He's too smooth, Laya. Everything he says sounds rehearsed. You're just not used to someone treating me well. Or I'm not used to someone treating you like a project." They'd fought that night. Aaliyah spent Christmas break in her childhood home in Atlanta, missing Caleb's texts and calls, feeling the distance between her old life and this new, dizzying reality. When spring semester began, Caleb was waiting outside her dorm with flowers and an apology for monopolizing her time. "I never want to come between you and your friends," he said, his blue eyes earnest. "You're too important to me." She forgave him. Of course she did. The flowers kept coming. So did the gifts, small at first, then extravagant. A vintage edition of Toni Morrison's Beloved. Diamond earrings that made her uncomfortable. Invitations to exclusive parties where she was always the only black face in the room. "You don't have to keep spending money on me," she told him. "I want to. You deserve beautiful things." He cupped her face, his touch gentle. "You deserve everything." But there were moments, brief, unsettling moments, when the mask slipped. When she'd see him dismiss a waiter with cold disdain. When he'd make a joke about affirmative action and claim he was just playing devil's advocate. When his friends would look at her with something between curiosity and contempt. "Caleb's dating the scholarship girl," she'd overheard one of them say at a party. $20 says it doesn't last past finals. When she'd confronted Caleb, he'd been appropriately horrified. "Jackson's an idiot. I'll talk to him." He pulled her close, his cologne expensive and suffocating. "You know you mean more to me than any of these people, right?" She wanted to believe him. God, how she wanted to believe him. In April, he invited her to a small gathering at his off-campus house. "Just a few friends. Low-key. I want you to feel comfortable in my world." Aaliyah hesitated. Maya was away for the weekend. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. "Keep your eyes open, baby. I'll be there," she heard herself say. "What should I bring?" "Just yourself." His smile was warm, perfect, treacherous. "That's all I ever want." The house was larger than she'd expected. All exposed brick and modern art, nestled in the expensive neighborhood where university royalty lived. Music pulsed through open windows. Caleb greeted her at the door with a drink already in hand. "You came," he said, kissing her cheek. "I was worried you'd bail. I said I would be here." She accepted the glass. Something fruity, sweet. "Though this looks more like a party than a small gathering. It'll thin out soon. Come on. Let me introduce you around." The next hour was a blur of names and faces, all of them regarding her with that same curiosity, like she was an exotic animal Caleb had imported for their entertainment. She nursed her drink, feeling increasingly out of place despite Caleb's attentiveness. "You okay?" he asked, refilling her glass when she wasn't looking. "You seem tense." "I'm fine. Just, this isn't really my scene." "I know. That's why I love you." The words hung in the air between them. He'd never said them before. "Caleb, you don't have to say it back." He touched her face, his expression unreadable. "I just wanted you to know." She drank more, trying to process, feeling warmth spread through her limbs. The room seemed to tilt slightly. She laughed at something someone said, though she couldn't remember what it was. I think I need to sit down," she murmured. "Of course. Let me take you somewhere quiet." He guided her upstairs, his arm around her waist. She should have questioned it, should have felt alarm. But her thoughts were cotton, her limbs heavy, and Caleb's voice was so soothing. "Just rest here. I'll get you some water." She lay back on the bed, the ceiling spinning. Voices drifted from the hallway, male voices, laughing. The door opened and closed. More people entered the room. "Caleb," her own voice sounded far away. "What's?" "Shoo. It's okay. Aaliyah. Everything's okay." But everything wasn't okay. Hands that shouldn't be touching her. Laughter that turned her blood to ice. She tried to scream, to fight, but her body wouldn't obey. Terror crashed through the fog, sharp and clarifying, but by then it was too late. Mama, she thought as consciousness began to slip away. Mama, help me. Miles away, in a small house in Atlanta, Catherine Monroe woke from a dead sleep, her heart hammering. She reached for her husband, gripping his arm. Marcus, wake up. What is it? Something's wrong. Something's wrong with Aaliyah. Tears were already streaming down her face. I can feel it. Oh God, I can feel it. She fell to her knees beside the bed, her prayers desperate and ancient, calling on every angel and ancestor to protect her baby girl. Marcus joined her, their voices rising together in the darkness, pleading with a God who seemed very far away. The first thing Aaliyah became aware of was beeping. Steady, rhythmic, mechanical. Then light, too bright, burning through her closed eyelids. Then pain. Everywhere. She's waking up. Doctor, she's waking up. Her mother's voice. Aaliyah's eyes fluttered open to fluorescent lights and white walls, and her mother's face, older somehow, lined with suffering. Manga. The word came out as a croak. Catherine Monroe collapsed against her daughter's hospital bed, sobbing. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What happened? Fragments of memory crashed against her consciousness. The party, the drink, the room. Terror surged. Mama, where am I? What? Baby, you're safe now. You're safe. You're in the hospital. You've been... Her mother's voice broke. You've been in a coma for 3 months. Time stopped. 3 months. Spring had become summer. Finals had come and gone. And she couldn't remember anything after. Caleb, she gasped. Where's Caleb? Is he? The look on her mother's face told her everything she needed to know. Detective Martinez was kind but direct. He sat beside her bed the next day, his expression grave. Ms. Monroe, I need to ask you some difficult questions. Do you remember the night of April 15th? She did. God help her, she did. The memories came in waves now, each one more devastating than the last. I was drugged, she whispered. At his house. He drugged me, and then, we found GHB in your system. And Martinez's jaw tightened. There's no easy way to say this. Physical evidence suggests you were sexually assaulted by multiple individuals. The room tilted. Bile rose in her throat. Multiple. We've been investigating, but Mr. Richardson has substantial legal resources. His father is a senator. The words tasted like poison. Of course he is. All his friends have alibis. The surveillance system at the house mysteriously malfunctioned that night. His phone records were wiped. It's like... Martinez looked away, disgusted. It's like they planned for every contingency. So he just gets away with it? Her voice rose, panic and rage battling for dominance. They destroyed me and they just walk away? I'm not giving up. But I need you to know, this kind of case with this kind of defendant, it's going to be an uphill battle. After he left, Aaliyah learned the rest. Caleb had withdrawn from Thornhill, ostensibly for mental health reasons. He was now studying abroad. His father had released a statement about false allegations and protecting young men from vindictive women, and she was pregnant. 18 weeks, the doctor said gently. Given the circumstances, you have options. No. The word came out fierce, final. This isn't the baby's fault. Her mother held her as she wept, great heaving sobs that seemed to tear her apart from the inside. When she returned to campus in September, walking was different. She carried a medical cane now, her body still healing from injuries both visible and not. But worse than the physical damage was the psychological minefield she'd entered. I heard she accused Caleb Richardson of rape, someone whispered in the dining hall. Probably trying to get money from his family. She was always so desperate for attention. I heard she was sleeping with half the football team. The lies spread like cancer. Friends stopped calling. Study groups suddenly had no room for her. Professors looked at her with pity or doubt. Maya stood by her, but even their friendship was strained, weighted with trauma too heavy for either of them to carry. The baby grew. Her scholarship was revoked. Too many missed credits. Her parents took out loans they couldn't afford. The walls closed in. They collapsed together on the concrete, Maya holding her as she shattered completely. "I can't do this," Aaliyah sobbed. "I can't. Everyone thinks I'm lying. He's out there living his life and I'm dying inside. I just want it to stop. Then we make him pay." Maya's voice was steel. "We don't give up. We don't let him win. You hear me? We don't let that monster win." That night marked a shift. The suicidal despair transformed into something colder, sharper. Survival became strategy. Grief became fuel. When her daughter was born in February, a beautiful girl with knowing eyes, Aaliyah named her Hope. Felt like both prayer and promise. "I will make the world safer for you," she whispered to the infant in her arms. "I swear to God I will." 5 years passed like a slow-burning fuse. Aaliyah graduated not from Thornhill, but from the state university she transferred to, carrying hope on her hip to classes, studying through exhaustion and trauma. She earned her engineering degree with highest honors, then her master's, then started her PhD. She became strategic, calculating, every decision made with precision, every relationship evaluated for utility. She joined support groups and learned from other survivors. She documented everything. She watched Caleb from a distance, his engagement to a senator's daughter, his rising profile in his father's political machine, his perfect, poisonous life. "Let it go," her therapist advised. "For your own healing, you need to release this." But Aaliyah had learned that some wounds don't heal, they calcify. They become armor. Hope grew into a bright, curious child who asked questions Aaliyah wasn't ready to answer. "Where's my daddy?" she asked at 4 years old. "Your daddy is someone who made bad choices," Aaliyah said carefully. "But you are the best choice I ever made." It was Dr. Chun, her dissertation advisor, who taught her the most valuable lesson. In a world built to protect powerful men, you have to become more powerful than them. Not through rage, through excellence. Through strategic, undeniable excellence. Aaliyah became undeniable. She published groundbreaking research. She won prestigious fellowships. She built alliances and networks, never mentioning Caleb but never forgetting. Then, one autumn evening 10 years after that terrible night, her phone rang. "Ms. Monroe? My name is David Torres. You don't know me, but I was at Caleb Richardson's house. That night, in April." Her hand tightened on the phone. "Go on. I've been carrying this for a decade. I was 18, drunk, stupid, but that's not an excuse. What we did," his voice broke, "what we did was evil. And I can't live with it anymore. My daughter just turned 5, the same age as Hope. And I thought, if someone did that to her." Aaliyah's breath caught. "Why now? Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I'm dying. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And I need to try to make this right before I meet whatever judgment's waiting." I kept evidence. Videos. Text messages. Things Caleb thought he'd destroyed. "I'll testify. I'll give you everything. I know it won't undo what happened. But when can you meet?" Her voice was steady, clinical. Inside, her heart was a war drum. "Tomorrow. Anywhere you want. I'm so sorry, Ms. Monroe." She recorded their conversation. The next day, she met him in a coffee shop, her lawyer present, and listened as David Torres dismantled every lie Caleb Richardson had built. He provided hard drives, screenshots, recordings of Caleb bragging to friends about the scholarship bitch he'd put in her place. "He said you were getting too confident," Torres confessed, his eyes haunted. "That you needed to be reminded of your place. That it was fun to watch you break." Aaliyah felt something inside her go very cold and very clear. This wasn't just assault. It had been a calculated destruction. A punishment for daring to exist in a space men like Caleb believed belonged only to them. "Thank you," she said finally. "This took courage. Courage would have been stopping it. This is just too little, far too late." The case reopened on a Tuesday in October 15 years after that April night. Aaliyah was 34 now, Dr. Aaliyah Monroe, a renowned structural engineer with a teenage daughter and a spine of steel. Caleb Richardson was 38, married, a father of 3, and running for his father's vacated Senate seat. The press conference was a spectacle. Martinez, now a captain, stood beside Aaliyah as they announced new evidence. The video footage was damning. The text messages were monstrous. Caleb's carefully constructed life began to crumble in real time. His lawyer issued statements about youthful mistakes and rehabilitation. His wife filed for divorce within a week. His campaign imploded. His father, in a final act of cowardice, claimed he'd had no idea about his son's alleged indiscretions. The trial was brutal. Defense attorneys tried to destroy Aaliyah's credibility, her character, her choices. They painted her as vindictive, obsessed, a woman who couldn't let go of the past. But she had become something they couldn't break. She had become undeniable. "Yes, I've spent 15 years thinking about this," she said on the stand, looking directly at Caleb. 15 years raising the daughter conceived from that assault. 15 years building a life from the ruins you left. And if that makes me obsessed, so be it. But I am here. I survived. And you will finally be held accountable. The jury deliberated for 3 days, guilty on all counts. When the verdict was read, Aaliyah didn't cry. She held Hope's hand. Hope, who was 15 now, brilliant and fierce and fully aware of her origin story, and simply breathed. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Aaliyah made one statement. "To everyone who told me to be quiet, to move on, to let it go, I want you to understand something. Justice delayed is not justice denied. It's justice gathering strength. Betrayal destroyed my trust. His lies shattered my innocence. But resilience always finds its way. Always." That evening, Aaliyah and Hope sat on their apartment balcony, watching the sun set over the city. The weight she'd carried for 15 years hadn't disappeared. It had simply transformed into something she could finally set down. "Mom," Hope asked quietly, "do you feel better now? Now that he's going to prison?" Aaliyah considered the question. Better seemed too simple a word for the complex tapestry of emotions woven through her chest. "I feel resolved," she said finally. "Not healed, healing is ongoing, but resolved. Like I can finally stop fighting and start truly living." "Good." Hope leaned against her mother's shoulder. "You deserve that. You deserve everything." Aaliyah closed her eyes, letting tears fall for the first time in years. Not tears of pain, but of release, of hard-won peace. Somewhere in a jail cell, Caleb Richardson was learning what it meant to have power stripped away. But Aaliyah had learned something far more valuable. That the power to destroy could never match the power to endure, to rebuild, to transform trauma into testimony, pain into purpose. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of crimson and gold. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, for the first time in 15 years, Aaliyah Monroe allowed herself to simply be. Survivor, mother, victor, free. If this story moved you in any way, please take a second to like this video, subscribe, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one.